Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm kind of at a standstill on the treasure chest, the RCA treasure chest, and the General Electric Colorama until I can get the dials back from radio days. So the holidays are coming up, so the amount of time I'm going to be able to work on stuff is going to be a hit and miss. So I thought I would get into something that's going to take a little bit more time, and also something that I've never done before. And this is a 1946 Aviola. Now you may recognize the name. The Aviola was the first radio that I put a video on YouTube. And electronically, this is almost identical chassis as that radio, except it's got a phono input on it. So I guarantee, I have no idea about these phonographs. I've never worked on a phonograph whatsoever. So I know that in the future, on comments, I'm going to get somebody say, well, you don't know what you're doing. Well, I'm going to tell you that right up front. But I'm going to use this as a learning experience, and hopefully I can drag you guys along with me and we can learn it together if you'd like to. But it's got the customary stains on the top. Any radio or anything like that has got to have cup stains or flower vase stains. It's got the customary one knob missing. Of course, this is the volume on and off. This is the tuning. And this is the tone control and the phono radio switch also. Let me flip the lid open. I know I need some cabinet work, which I'm probably not going to include this on the video. It's just basic gluing is all it is. When I flip the lid open, the back and the top's going to fall off. That's the way it came. So I'm just going to turn it back and see if I can show you the inside of this, and I'll describe what I can about the turntable itself. I've removed the top, and like I said, the back came out, and it's just a matter of gluing it back. I want to show you something that I always come up with. I always come up with a poster size schematic. That I'm going to try something different this time. Went and you go where you buy posters, you can buy these poster hangers, and this is adjustable, and this just clamps onto it, and so you can just mount this on the wall and have a easy reference, something easy to look at. But there's your 12SA7, your 12SK7, your 12SQ7, and your 50L6, along with your 35Z5 rectifier. And here's your phono motor and your phono. It's where it's tied into it. So pretty straightforward. And the electronics, we will probably do it first to get the amp going before we tear into the turntable itself. Let me get a better view of the turntable. I wanted to show you the dial of the Aviola. This is the original cabinet color, and it's in fairly decent shape. I got one chip here, and I'm not sure I'm going to do anything with it at this point in time. But the Aviola 502 that I did, the 1600 was on this end, and the 55 was over here. I believe if this is the same inside, which it should be, it's got an inductive tuner in it. So let's go up to the turntable. This is a manual. You turn it on and off, and you set the tone arm over to the record, and when you get done, you take and you put it back. That's it. There's no automatic drop down, stacking, or anything like that. So tracking force is important, and I'm learning this. I've told you I'm learning this as we go. The tracking force is important for several reasons. Is when it gets to a certain point over here, it has to have a certain amount of tracking force for the automatic functions to work. So that's important. Also, it has to do with, does the record skip or record wear? If you don't have the proper tracking force, then that will be an issue. Now, the replacement cartridge for this, I've talked to the Voice of Music, and this is a static L40 Alpha, and it has a tracking force of about 1 1/4 ounces. Well, for the guys that goes by grams, that's about 35 grams. Okay, the modern ones today are very low, and I can't tell you what the modern ones are because I don't have a clue. But this cartridge produced about 0.6 volts, and it was a crystal cartridge, which there was 3 types of crystals, my understanding. They were Rochelle salts, quartz, and tourmaline. The Rochelle salt, they produced the highest voltage, and it by a piezoelectric effect. And basically, when the needle vibrated, it caused the crystals to vibrate, and it created an electrical current, AC current, which was picked up and transmitted to the amplifier, and that's how it's amplified. So the Rochelle salts had the highest, the quartz was next, and then the tourmaline was the least. Now, usually crystal cartridges go bad, just go bad. And the reason being is there's a certain amount of moisture in those crystals. And, you get them above a certain temperature, water's going to go away. You get them below a certain temperature, it's going to freeze. So temperature has a high effect on it, and just time in general does also. So, but we're going to take the electronics out of this first and get the amp and the radio part of it going, and then we're going to dive in and work on the turntable and get that going. So that'll give me a little bit more time to do some more research on it. Okay, there's 2 screws holding the radio chassis inside, and let's go ahead and see if we can get that off. Going to have to replace the feet on the bottom. These have they're plastic with look like nails inside of them. They look original, and we'll have to replace those with something. Well, that's not a big deal. But it's not a very popular set. If you want to know the history of the company Aviola, I covered it, I thought, fairly well in the first set of videos that I did on the Aviola 502. So let's see if we can get this out. And we may have to take the top totally off of it to get that past the motor. I don't know. We'll see. There we go. Let's see. This has just like the 502, had a external antenna. And let's see if we can pull this out to a certain degree. And get it around that turntable. And working motor. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, I couldn't get it out, and then I realized that there was the phono switch. So, got to get all these wires past here. And now there's our speaker wire. We're going to have to get the speaker off and bring it all out as a unit. We ran into the situation with the speaker. The wires wasn't hardly long enough, so had to remove this cover to access the top screws of the speaker. So the speaker's going to have to come out with it. All right, let's see. Speaker looks okay. Let's see if we can get all this out in one piece. Yes. Here's the motor plug. And it goes to the switch.
You're simply brilliant.
I could have left the switch in, couldn't I? Well, you learn this stuff as you go along. So, all right, let's get this out. Here's the chassis out. It's got its loop antenna along with an external antenna connection on the back. So the tubes, that one was loose, but this is, let's see if we can get it around here and get a better look. Glue block. Always one of them loose somewhere. Volume control. Chassis looks in really good shape as far as rust or anything like that. Tuning, as I told you, I believe it was inductor tuning. Now the difference in this one and the 502 is this one tunes horizontally. Not familiar with inductor tuning. It's basically two slugs on a mechanism going down in some coils. So I guess that's where it had been sitting. You can see that the shaft had been corroded here up to that point. Here's our speaker connection. So let's get underneath and see. Underneath the chassis, if you'll notice, this is the on-off switch for the, and this is just the tone control itself. That's just a potentiometer. So, okay. Output transformer, bunch of paper caps. This one might have been added, this capacitor. 20 microfarad, I believe that's part of the filter. This, going from the original 502, it had one of these in it. So this has probably been tacked in, included. But all in all, it looks pretty good. I think we're going to be able to do something with this. This, I'm just looking at the dial itself. this looks deformed in some form or fashion right here, and it may just need to be bowed out a little bit. So I think it'll be okay. But good cleanup, recapping. I think this is be ready to go. So I'm going to get this on the bench. I'm gonna go glue that right now, and may show you, may not. It's basically, I'm going to put the glue block in the right front or the left front and glue the back of it on. But that's it for right now, and we'll get this separated. I got to get stuff off the table. Wife's wrapping Christmas presents, so I've got to clean things up here. When I was pulling it apart, it looked like a little Friskies inside, so I guess whoever had this before was a cat lover. I guess they can't be all bad, can they? Remove this little pin off the bottom of the shaft, and that came right up out of there. Here's the idler. Looks like been a lot of lubrication in the past, and now it's all matted up. All this is going to have to be taken out, cleaned up, and we'll evaluate whether or not we need to get this resurfaced. In a lot of cases, it being mid 40s or so, it's probably going to need to be redone. So we'll send that off to Voice Music, and if necessary, when we pull it all out. I just wanted to give you a bird's eye view of this, and so that I can look and see what I'm up against here, and learn these parts and all this stuff. And I'm going to have to check out a lot more videos about taking this apart. Look like the grommets are pretty much toast, so those will have to be replaced because that floats in here on those grommets. And a little bit of lubrication, a lot of cleanup, a little bit of lubrication, and you know, look how greasy. Yeah, there's a light on it. Look at the gunk in there. So all this is going to have to be taken out and cleaned up. We'll save that for another day. Got the top off and got my glue going. So that should be a minor repair, and I also put the glue block in. Okay, as you guys recall, I went through and I checked all the filaments, the heater circuits on the treasure chest. And if you'll remember, when I last checked them, they were right around 600 ohms or so, okay? So when I went to check this AA5 of the this Aviola, reading 118 ohms. And I got to thinking, why was this one reading close to 700, and this one over here is reading 118 or so? Well, I've pulled the plug on this one, and I'm checking it again. So let's check this. Now it's reading 113 ohms. What happened? Why is this lower than it was? I have a theory. I had just checked those tubes when I put them back in there and did the continuity check on a tube tester. So I'm saying once they heated up, the resistance went up. So I'm going to plug this one in. This is the one that's playing. So This is the treasure chest. I'm going to plug it in, let it play for a few minutes, turn it off, and then check the resistance on it again. It was 112, 113. Watch when I heat it up. I played it for about a minute or so, so the tube should be warm. Let's check the resistance now. 391. So what we did say earlier about the hot and the cold resistances of those tubes is in fact true. So as it cools off, I've only played it about a minute or so, as it cools off, it's going to go down. So I'm going to let it sit for a few minutes and come back and check it again. Okay, I've let that cool down for a little bit, and you can see the resistance is going down. So I thought I'd share that with you, because when I went to check the other one, it was cold, and I had just checked the tubes, and so the tubes were warm, so there was a difference in it. After I did the continuity check on that, I pulled the tubes and found that the 12 SQ7 was bad. So even though we had continuity, it was a bad tube. So I've got to replace that. And so we've got a pretty good start. The next part, we'll do the cleanup and recap of this, and we might do some disassembly on the turntable itself. Been looking at some parts and things like that. So we'll wrap this one up for now. I thought you might want to see the difference in the and it throwed a flag to me when I did this checks on this. The resistance was a whole lot lower than the other one, but you know, like I said, it was because the tubes were warm from the tube checker. And so it made a difference. That's just something to keep in mind. So I thought I'd follow up with that. So appreciate everybody. So from Larry from the hills of Tennessee, thanks for watching.